everyone, and welcome to WFTV's Law Talk, your guide to understanding the law and how it impacts our community.
We break down complicated legal topics as part of our mission to ensure legal access for all.
Yep, I'm Q McCoy alongside Jeff Harvey here, the CEO of Community Legal Services, and together we'll help amplify the voices of those who are striving to make justice accessible to all. You're watching Law Talk.
Turning complex legal jargon into everyday talk. That's WFTV's Law Talk, sponsored by Community Legal Services.
And today we have a very special guest with us. We have Mr. Ron Nesbitt, the Executive Vice President of McCoy Federal Credit Union. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Glad to be here.
Yeah, so in addition to being the Executive Vice President, you guys also share something in common. You're both lawyers, right? Because you used to have your own law firm.
Yes, thank you for outing me, yes.
What was your work, your background kind of in law firm?
Tax and finance. Tax and finance. A lot of that work was done with financial institutions, and so it was a natural transition for me to go to McCoy, and it's worked out great.
Yeah, and you've been there since 2016, if I'm not mistaken.
That is correct.
Right.
Yes.
And McCoy just celebrated its 70th year in Central Florida. So
December 14th, it's an exciting time, and so we've been celebrating it all year long, and the members have responded well to it. We're happy to be a part of this community. It started out as Pine Castle Air Force Base, which you may know, and so if you travel to Orlando and you see MCO, that's McCoy, MCO, McCoy. That's where that comes from. It used to be McCoy Air Force Base following the iteration of Pine Castle Air Force Base. That's us.
I didn't know that.
And we're now a community credit union and have been so for the last several years. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. Well, can you talk a little bit about the credit union? I think a lot of times when people head to a credit union, they're thinking it's just like a bank, but not necessarily.
It is like a bank in this way. You can put your money there.
Okay.
The money's safe. You have the same technology. You can move your money around. We have some of the same regulatory guidelines. We have safety and soundness guidelines. So it's similar in that way. Where we start to veer ways is that we're a not-for-profit financial cooperative. So that would be similar to the three of us saying, we want to put our money in an account that's for our use. Here in Central Florida, if you live, work, worship, go to school, then you qualify for membership in our credit union and probably a lot of other credit unions. If you're affiliated with certain employers, you probably qualify for a membership in a credit union. It's pretty open right now. If you have a relative, an immediate family member, or depending on the charter designation, a blood relative, you qualify for membership in a credit union. So it's fairly open and easy to be involved.
Gotcha.
So as a nonprofit, you're basically mission-based, like our nonprofit, right? Your mission is what? The financial wellness of your members?
That's exactly right. And what we're really concerned about, the financial wellness of our members, making sure that people have an opportunity to get a good start, in some cases get a restart, and to feel like they can participate in the community and in the economy. That is essentially what we're about.
Gotcha.
Oh, that's great.
Now, well, I also know that McCoy, through McCoy Cares, you guys do a lot to give back to the community as well.
That was one of the reasons I was happy to join McCoy. The way that I knew about McCoy was I would see them at events. The name McCoy, supporting a lot of the local nonprofit organizations. If you've lived here for any period of time, you know there is an enormous amount of support for nonprofit organizations here. That's one of the things that makes this community very strong.
As the risk manager for the organization, what does that mean to you? What do you see?
Well, I tell you what, the very basis of banking is trust. And the way that I think about banking is that I want our members to feel safe, that when they put their money with us, the money's going to be there when they need it, and they're going to be able to spend it when they want and how they want, and move it when and where they want with all the conveniences. Not be subject to a lot of fraud loss by scammers. There's a lot of that during the holiday, and to simply be able to relax and not have to overthink where their money is and why it's there. Unfortunately, there are a lot of impersonators. some of those text messages you certainly don't understand. Like it makes no sense. Like, oh, I haven't made these purchases. I haven't been to this store. And sometimes those text messages will say, if you haven't made this purchase, right, click this button or call us, right? That's almost never the financial institution up to a point. You will have an opportunity to say, yes, it was me. No, it was not me. Yes, this was my purchase. No, it was not my purchase. Where things get a little quirky is when that impersonator calls you and says, look, I need your PIN number. I need your credentials to log into your account. And as much as we try to educate consumers and members, there's some people who have a lot of trust in financial institutions, and if it says that it's McCoy or some other credit union or financial institution, they say, well, I trust them, so I'm gonna call them. Mm-hmm. Where it goes wrong is that we never ask for a member's personal information. We never ask for your credentials. Once the fraudsters get that information, they can access your account, transfer money out through external transfers or through some other platform such as Zelle, and the money's gone. What we do at McCoy is make our members whole. As much as we warn them about this possibility, we know that people are still falling for the scam. It's tough. It really is tough. And particularly around Christmas, we don't want them to lose that money if we can bear the brunt of it, the cost of it.
So what are some things that your organization offers that maybe you would find commonplace in terms of making customers whole in that regard?
So there are a few things. First, it starts with education. So lots of education on social media, lots of education on our website, lots of education when we go out to the communities, lots of alerts on our mobile apps. That's the first line of defense. Then if it happens, we also let you know what our short code is, the way that we communicate with you, which is another element of communication. And then the next process is the claim that you can make with us to report the fraud. We have a nice, clean, easy process to make those claims. But then let's say if it's gone too far and they've gotten more of your money that they shouldn't have had, we also offer credit protection. We also offer recovery services, which for our members, if they opt into one of those two accounts, all that's covered for them. They have assistance with somebody who is going to work with them. They may work with you for a few weeks. Sometimes it could take over a year, but they help you recover the losses that you've had and reestablish yourself, your own credentials under your name.
Okay. Yeah. Now, McCoy is also big on helping the small business owner get ahead as well.
We do. We spend a lot of time with small businesses, and that's another place where credit unions really differ from some of the larger banks. And the larger banks will have a threshold. I mean, it makes sense, right? And so if you've got, I don't want to say a gazillion dollars, right? But if you've got trillions of dollars, not necessarily in your local community, but you're still thinking about what it takes to move that needle. And those smaller businesses are not yet, in some cases, ready to be served by those larger banks. What we can do, because we live here in the community, people see me in the grocery store, I'm at church with them, I'm in the parks with them, they know who I am, they have my personal cell phone number, they have the personal cell phone number of our CEO, Mr. Collins, they call us, it's easy to get a referral. They have an opportunity to sit down and explain their story, explain their business. We can go out and visit their business, explain their business model, where their challenges are. Sometimes the challenges are not about the actual business itself. Sometimes it's just getting organized. We take the time to help them get their documents organized. We make referrals to other professionals to help them get up and running. We want to see them succeed so that they can be a viable part of the community, so that they can hire people here in the community, so that they can pay wages. I shouldn't say pay taxes, but ultimately that's part of what it takes to support the community. We want them to be a viable part of the community, and we do what we can. No business is too small. We handle solo entrepreneurs, I guess we call them solopreneurs now, right? Right. Right up to larger businesses that may do, $50 million in revenue. So we look at them all. The other place where we really excel is churches.
Okay.
And so that sounds odd. Well, why would a church need money? Because You have all the parishioners and they're taking up offerings every Sunday. Well, they have operational needs as well.
That's right.
They need to be able to grow and they need to be able to serve their members. And the story that we like to point to is during the pandemic, when churches were experiencing the same pain that a lot of other businesses were experiencing. There was a lot of uncertainty. Some people unfortunately lost their jobs, and so the churches began to suffer. They still needed some support, some liquidity, a little bit of line of credit, and so they came to us and some other financial institutions, and we said, we've been partnering with you for all these years. There's no reason for us to stop now. And we continued to serve them during that time, making loans. Now, we had to go to our board. Right? we, like banks, we have a board, and they want to make sure we're being responsible with our members' money. Remember, this is your money, my money that we've put in the pot. There are no separate investors out there. We do financial reporting, but it's still our money at the end of the day. And part of the reason we are careful with that money is because we want to be able to be around to provide you loans at a lower rate, to provide you products that are more affordable, to be able to take more chances if you have to start over again. You could have a divorce, you could have a death in your family, you could have an illness. Any of those things can impair any person's ability to be able to function financially. And so sometimes people need to get back on the horse. We have a Fresh Start program that helps them do that. That's where we think is a good place for us. So during the pandemic, we said we've been helping, we're going to continue to help. For the small businesses who were looking for PPP loans, where some of the larger banks says we're at capacity or we have to tend to a lot of our own customers, we all work together here in the community as well. So they would send a lot of that business to us, and we would take care of those smaller businesses to make sure that they had access to the same resources that other businesses need to have resources to, so that they could continue to thrive and survive during the pandemic.
I think that's great. I had a client once that fell victim of fraud.
Yeah.
And at the same time, her husband, I think, was suffering from an illness and ultimately passed away. And she is in a situation now where I don't think she can get a bank account.
It's tough.
Is that you said Fresh Start? Is your organization is the type of place that people like that should go and talk to in person?
Absolutely. We know that just what you just described is a circumstance that sometimes we don't have control over. And we know that people have good intentions. Even when you take a loan out, your intention is to pay it back. Right? Nobody intends. Okay. Yeah, I was. You were about to strap. Most people, when they take out a loan, they say, "I intend to pay it back," right? Because I know ultimately, I'm not borrowing my money. A loan, if you're a member, I'm borrowing other people's money, and we should replace it, and we pay a fee for that. A small fee. And so if you need to restart, we'll talk to you, we'll see what the circumstances are, and then we'll give you a Fresh Start account. Something to start with, and then as you demonstrate that you're really ready to get back on track, we give you more and more capability, more and more access, larger and larger lines of credit, larger and larger credit limits. What we want you to be is bankable, right? Yeah. We want you to have access to an account. Think about this. If you don't have access to an account and you have children in college, I suspect they want money, right? Right. And so I don't think it was, I'm gonna date myself, I don't think it was like when I was in college and I call home and my mom would say, I'll put a check in the mail, or I'll put you a few dollars in the mail, or check that Bible that I sent you off to school with. There might be some money in there. Right? Today, if you have a kid who's across the country or in some other part of the state, you can just send them money automatically. If you need to pay vendors, you send that money automatically. Think about the last time you wrote a check.
Everything's digital. Yeah.
Right, and so for that reason alone, it's helpful to have access to a bank account, let alone a host of other reasons.
You gave us some really good advice for our friends at home about, when it comes to watching out for scammers. any other advice you have for people watching right now as a whole, whether they're like the lowly anchor or the the business owner? What advice do you have for our
both as a lawyer and a manager of risk for a bank, right?
I hate to say this because people say it so often. If it sounds too good to be true, right?
It's that simple.
It's probably not true.
Yeah.
If you know that you haven't engaged in a particular transaction, don't let anybody trick you into thinking that you have. And then there's another whole kind of fraud that is all year round, but it ticks up during the holiday season, which is romance scams. There are a lot of people who are hurting and lonely during the holidays, and if some handsome 35-year-old contacts you and you're 80 and they're giving you attention, it may or may not make sense, right? And if it doesn't make sense, and if you really think about it, maybe it doesn't make sense, then don't fall for that. But it's tough when you're lonely and when you're in a tough place.
Gotcha. Well, you, my friend, are a wealth of information. Thank you very much for your time with us today.
Thank you very much for having me. That's a nice euphemism. Wealth of information. Let's see if my friends agree with that. He talks a lot.
Right.
But seriously, when we got the call to come and participate here, we were elated. One of the things that we love about living here in Central Florida is the community and sense of partnership. And the Central Florida is doing well. The economy is strong. We were just looking at the numbers today. While unemployment for the nation is 4.2%, here in Florida it's 3.3%, and in Central Florida it's still 3.3%. When we look at the gross domestic product for the United States, it's approaching $29 trillion. Here in Florida, we're number 4 in the country. In Central Florida, we're at $1.7 trillion in Florida. And in Central Florida, we're contributing about $150 billion to that. That's in Central Florida. And that's enormous growth that we've seen here. And the reason that we can do that is because of partnerships like this. And so we appreciate your inviting us on so that we can share some of our insights so that people can get information and have another option for banking. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time. McCoy Federal Credit Union's Ron Nesbitt, everybody.
Thank you.
I really enjoyed our conversation there with Mr. Nesbitt. That was a great opportunity to go over some scams that, I get those texts too he was talking about.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. And it's very refreshing to hear from a financial institution about how much they care about the community.
Right, and McCoy Federal Credit Union does a lot and has for the last 70 years. They're celebrating their 70th anniversary right now as we speak. So listen, if you or someone you know is in need of legal assistance, reach out to Community Legal Services at legalaccessforall.org, or to learn more about today's topic and watch other Law Talk episodes, visit WFTV.com/legal. And remember, every weekend on TV 27, we also have episodes of Let's Talk Law.
Till next time, thanks for watching WFTV's Law Talk.
WFTV's Law Talk is sponsored by Community Legal Services.